Okay, we'll get started. So, what did you observe? What new things did you notice? See any people out there?
Yeah, it's a very typical library for me. Very
Yeah.
typical, people working on their own devices or laptops and just resting,
Beautiful library,
looking for books.
really is.
Yes, it is.
I noticed that the power tables the library put in were extremely popular. I mean, people with devices were
Plugged
just
in.
completely plugged into
Yep.
tabletops.
Yep. What a great invention.
Yeah.
And I don't know if most of them were using Wi-Fi, but I think, from my experience at our library, and the Wi-Fi was probably just, the existence of it was one of the most popular things.
Yeah.
It was all those, and in fact, as I was like, well, I'll just log on to Wi-Fi, and then my operating system started updating. I was like, oh, yay, and I became a patron. So, Wi-Fi seems to be one of the, in most libraries I know.
Oh, I think it is. Yeah. I remember in the early days with Wi-Fi in the libraries, when they were putting wireless networks in, and they would go outside the building. Yeah.
They're trying to do
Well,
that.
outside is inside now.
And people would park out.
They watch movies.
Oh, is that right?
Right?
Yeah, the director, one of the directors in Texas said he was going to put, like the handicap parking, he was going to put Wi-Fi parking spots.
Well, in here in Alaska, internet is so expensive to get to homes that people really don't have, they frequently don't have it at home.
Yeah, even for their businesses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In Anchorage, as soon as I pulled in the parking lot of the hotel, there was no internet. And then as soon as I left the parking lot, my phone worked, my phone always worked, but my internet connection would not work.
Well, they should have offered that Wi-Fi.
Well, they had Wi-Fi in the hotel. I could use their Wi-Fi.
Usually what's
Oh, right,
outside.
they
Oh, you're
get cell
saying,
phone data.
Yeah, the data on my cell phone was gone. So I had to log in to their Wi-Fi network
yeah,
if I
right.
wanted to use the phone.
That's right.
I had my laptop, so I used my laptop. And I went to the registration desk and they said, I'm assuming you know you have a problem here. And he said, Verizon's right across the street if you want to talk to them about it.
So I had two observations just as a user, because I did go around and I noticed all the same things, but I also wanted to check my bank account to see if my check had been deposited.
Yeah.
And so there aren't privacy screens on those
Oh.
computer things, and then all of you were observing, and I felt really like I just noticed like, oh, I feel really exposed right now. I mean, not that I thought anyone
For
was
what,
so big.
for what it's
The
worth,
screens are
couldn't see.
huge.
couldn't
You can see my
anything.
passwords or my bank
Oh, no,
account.
I mean, not
No,
even
no.
your screen, seriously.
Right.
It's like there's a person at a computer.
It
with
was
white
just
space.
so that I just recognized that I had that feeling if I was a patron and I wanted to look at something that was confidential, whether it be information about a health issue or
Yeah.
whatever, I just felt very exposed. There were lots of people walking around behind me, and so that was just an
Yeah, I
observation.
agree.
And I
But
could
it's-
see I sat at the computers and at the next bank over, couldn't see like individual words, but if there had been something with like large images, I could totally have
That's the best
seen what they were.
non-filter filter. It's so much better.
Yeah.
They used to have those like
Yeah.
Black
fingers under the
and-
desks
yeah.
and
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, no, I mean that those were overkill for sure, but there could be some kind of.
Well, and I like the approach of actually being more direct about it than having 4 questions and just sitting at the entrance to the library and saying, hey, we mind talking to me, make it optional. Because I do agree. We have lots of patrons at our library that, even when people aren't walking around with a little notebook, are concerned about privacy.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, we do regular walkthroughs and observations in my library, but today, I actually felt like I was intrusive, because it's not my library.
Yeah.
well, there's no,
And,
So many
overwhelming,
people.
yeah.
and really, and the one guy, I saw people using the Wi-Fi, but there was one guy who was sitting there, He wasn't reading, he wasn't using.
I saw him
Yeah.
He was, he wasn't, headphones, I was like, he was just sitting there.
Yeah.
And that's the one guy I wonder, I was like, what's going on?
He looked quite happy.
Yeah,
When I went by, he was sitting there.
Well, we get homeless people that come in a lot, they kind of sleep.
I don't think, I mean, he might have been homeless,
Sleep
but I don't think
over
that.
over there, especially in the summer, they set up tents and
Yeah.
then they come into the
Oh, I'm sure.
library or the university library. Years ago, we used to have one.
Yeah, I'm sure. I
I don't think that's this guy. But- so-
Looked like a happy young guy.
Yeah,
He was just
so-
hanging out.
So, yeah, it was-
If I were him, I'd have been over at the back end of the building looking at the mountains.
yeah, it was odd.
I noticed that people seemed really focused. They were doing different things. Some
Yep.
people were listening to something, some people were using their computers, some people were reading a newspaper, but whatever it was, they were really focused
Yeah,
on
I
it.
noticed that.
I was watching people coming in and out, and almost everyone I watched actually come in while we were doing this, shot in, I'm assuming returned books that they shot back out with what seemed like a lighter load. We're just in and out.
Do you see a change after school because of the high school?
Well,
Yes, yeah.
We have a huge change.
Do you?
Yeah, and when it's not sunny.
It's not sunny.
The Fairbanks Library we were in, we went out and did this, and they said, well, and one of the observation we came back, they said, let's wait 10 minutes, go back out, because you're gonna see a whole different.
That's what I put on mine. is
And I
like
did,
at
we went back
now.
out, and it was, all the kids came flying through that door.
School just let out 10 minutes ago over here.
Yeah,
But it's the middle schoolers that come.
There's kids coming in right now.
one,
Yeah,
Minecraft brigade.
one thing that, that'd be good to observe on a more regular basis, I noticed that one of the people at the computer, like, had his notebook out, and he was trying to, had a paper notebook out, and was kind of had it sort of balanced on his lap while trying to get notes from the computer. And if you had a lot of people like that, maybe it'd be a natural thought to, how can we put a convenient writing area
Yeah.
right there?
yeah,
But if it's just one or two, then it's like, well, keep balancing.
that's right. Any other, yes?
So I went to the kids section because I'm an elementary school librarian. And one thing I just really loved was the light under where the books were, the lights all over.
I
Oh my
noticed
gosh,
that
'cause ours are so dark, even though it's a relatively renovated building, it's only 6 years old, and there's areas that are so dark. So I really love that. And then the flow.
Yeah.
I noticed how the flow works in here, and it just seems to work very well.
Yeah.
Especially compared to my library. Again, that was just renovated. They didn't really think it through as well as they could have, the architects.
I love this library, the way it's laid out. And the meeting room's over on the far wall there with, that's, and everything's so open and glass and light, it's just a great place to be. Okay, any others? Okay.
The non-kids starting to leave too.
Okay, what was that?
I can see the non-kids starting to leave too.
Yeah, the kids are
The
coming.
kids are coming in and the.
It's like the pool, at a certain time, all the
Yeah.
older people are there, and then the kids start coming and we all leave.
I'll have to explain why I saw people shooting in, they're like, I've gotta get these returned before all the kids show up.
Okay, if you take your action planners out, if you haven't already done so. Top right corner, mark on highly collaborative community engagement. Key thought you took away from that whole experience. You keep on sharing with everybody? Yeah. I know you came in.
Too many, because I work here, so it's hard
Yeah.
to observe.
It's all right.
I know what flow problems are. It's not what we're here to talk about.
Yeah. Okay, you've been out there for lunch and the 20 minutes of talk to each other. Let's just share some key thoughts as opposed to getting into groups, and then we'll go into the last segment and finish it up. Who wants to share key thought from that whole segment? There's a lot of stuff.
Mine's more of a question. The majority of our users are virtual, not coming into our actual building. They're in other cities, other locations. And, you know, do a survey with the same questions, but I was wondering if you had any thoughts on ways to capture this, other ways to capture this kind of information from people who aren't here.
Well, and anyone have any suggestions? I mean, one of the only ways that I would know to get at them is online, through online surveys and questionnaires.
Or if you're talking about just usability of your website, I mean, there are like really advanced Google Analytics that can tell you like what areas of the page get clicked on or touched the most, not just page views, but other than that, I don't know.
Yeah.
Do a flow study. Have somebody that you don't know have them test out the system and record the computer screen where they're clicking, how long they're staying, how long is it they have.
It's actually a good ideas. I'm not, but it's actually
You're
beyond
more-
web even.
Right.
We do a lot of people sign up for things, and then we provide services via a lot of services via email.
Yep.
And so it's, I mean, web usability is good, and that's not minimizing that at all, but. And maybe maybe surveys is, you know, what we can do. But I was just in case there were.
Well, we should know that. I mean, you look at online organizations and how do they do that? How do they have these conversations with their customers?
Often it's point of need. I mean, they're providing a service to you at one point, and then they say, press star if you want to participate in a survey. So, I mean, we're talking with someone about a reference questionnaire, and
Right.
they call to ask, what are your hours? And we answer it, and we say, do you mind answering 4 questions? And they're completely different.
Yeah,
What will make your life better?
right. No, that's good. Those are good questions. I'm going to dig around and see what people have to say about it.
I had the one thing on one of the slides was that kind of got to me, was telling the story of what we do and how we do it. I think so much people don't, at least school libraries, they don't really know what we do. We're often overlooked and underutilized. Kids like it, but teachers, administration, they don't really know. So how to get that word out? That's what I'm thinking about at the moment. And even the teachers, we have some new teachers and they're kind of unaware. I noticed my circulation statistics decreased the last 2 years. Part of that I think is because we bought a boxed curriculum program for literature, literacy. But who's not checking out the books is the teachers, I think. And the kids, they're checking out a lot, but I notice the teachers aren't, so what can I do, this is my own question, to get them, because we have a lot of good materials in the library, I believe.
Yeah.
We take
I've
those,
been told that.
take those questions and go to them.
Well, I'm going to do a Google form, a Google survey, that's my idea from this.
And we did a survey before that wasn't, I mean, it was very different from this, but we found that it worked really well as a marketing tool, aside from any information we got. The information was good, but when we sent out the survey, we got so many people signing up for so many things, because asking them what they thought about a service, they're like, oh, you have that.
Yeah, that's true.
Right, well, I'm just seeing like, you know, I have 15 classes a week also, so it's not just librarian, it's teacher librarian, and then interventions, and, you know, they use you for everything. So I'd like to be able to say, hey, you're doing a unit on such and such, I'll bring you the books. But I don't know if I can do that like immediately because of my other parts of my
Right.
job. So anyway, those are the things that
Okay.
are swirling in my head.
And when I sent out the slides for this particular session, at the beginning of it was a article with a URL that the library, the school library that increased its
Yes, I think.
flow by
it's-
1,000% or something. Did you?
Yes, yes, I saw that. I don't think I read the whole thing.
Yeah, that's a great
I
article.
think I bookmarked that article.
Okay, read that article.
Yeah. That's
Because
it.
that came from, now that did come top down from the administration, the school administrator, whoever she was, said, I want to utilize this library in a different way, and
Yes,
brought this
yes.
librarian in, and they,
Wait, but I think that, not but, and it's a middle or high school library, which is a little bit different than elementary.
Yeah.
Because kids
Got
can
it.
come on their own.
got it, yep.
And we can do that, but not quite as easily. So I have to, there's some barriers that I
Yeah,
have to
no,
look at.
yep, you're right. But I thought it was amazing,
Yeah.
the way they redid that library.
Yeah, it was.
And because one of the things they heard from the conversations with the teachers was overcrowding, and they needed more space in the classroom. And one of the ways they came about that was make the library the learning center, and the teachers would they had their school cards, and they would assign them to go down to the library, and they called them prescriptions. I don't know what that was all about. But
Well, I've actually asked for that for next year, an hour a week to either send individuals from different grades to do a project or a whole class to come down and work together.
yeah,
I'm hoping that they put that in the schedule, we'll see.
and that's what they did there, as you know. And in that environment, they had their cards, and they would, when they came in, they'd scan them. And it was a shared environment, so the teachers knew that they left the class and checked in at the library. And then they had this prescription that they would hand the librarian that said, this is what we're working on, this is what we need. And they moved all the books, didn't get rid of anything, they moved it all up against the walls. Cleared out the whole interior and made it, where there's pictures of it in here. where-
Yeah, it was good.
It's really neat, but yeah, you're elementary. Any others?
Well, Julie, I started doing that a few years ago with the curriculum, and so the teachers now all email me, they say, well, we're doing 15th century Europe or something. And so I tried that day to get them a bag of books, like 10 books. But then I have it written down so I can find some more stuff. But I want to just respond right away so they know that we're that resource. But now I'm doing it for the preschool and the daycare and all the, because there's no library at the school, so it works out. But it is a lot of books coming in and out. It's really wonderful. Sometimes I don't even check them out. I just let them go. They'll come back. I'll go over and clear out the room.
Good
Yeah.
for you, that's right. Any others? Okay, great takeaways. And the good news is, we'll roll right into the last segment and we will get you out of here. This piece here, as we finish this up, is what they do. Again, we get back into this community thing where they position a library in the mind of the community. Very important that, like with the teachers, and that we position our programs and services in their minds so they think about us when they need something. I don't know about you, but this was a magazine ad when I was a young boy. And it was interesting because when I got into marketing and all those things years and years ago, about how when they started advertising for toothpaste, they said it came up with all these clinically what it did, but then when they started coming up and say, hey, buddy must have a new girl, and they put it's good for bad breath back in the 50s, the sales took off. Before that, they weren't really selling a lot of toothpaste. But this was one of the ads, and when I was a small kid in my single digits, and I'd be at home and my mother, we'd run out of toothpaste, my mother would say, hey, get on your bicycle, pedal down to Mr. Pullion's little corner store, tell him we need some toothpaste. So I get on my bike, because no one cared about anything back then, it was just like everybody knew everybody. And, so I pedal down to the store and go in and, Mr. Pullion, Mom needs some toothpaste. He'd go over and get Colgate because he knew we were a Colgate family. And, back then there were only 3 types of toothpaste. It was Crest and Colgate and Ipana, I think it was. But fast forward until today, and I travel a lot, and when I go home, I land at the airport, which is 5 miles from my house. I call my wife from my smartphone, say, hey, I'm home, I'll be home in a couple of minutes. She says, and this actually happened, hey, could you stop at the store, pick up some Sensodyne toothpaste from them. And I said, sure. So I get there and I walk into the store and I actually took this picture. That's what I was confronted with. And there are 32 different types of Colgate toothpaste. And on the left side of that are 32 types of Crest. And then over here on the right are, I mean, this is a whole grocery aisle, right? At Mr. Pulliam's, it was, there was 3 little tubes of toothpaste there. So I picked up the phone again and I called her. And I said, I'm standing in front of the, whatever that stuff's called. And I said, which one do you want? And she said, what do you mean, which one do I want? They said, well, there's one here with tartar control, and there's one minty fresh, and there's one of name and all these things. She said, I don't know, get the one you had last time. And I said, I don't know. She said, you know, this is what the age we live in now. Well, hold on, I'll go take a picture and I'll text it to you. Check your phone in a minute. But that's what's happening to the consumer today is sometimes we get so overwhelmed with choice and we're bombarded with messaging and choice that a lot of times people just give up because it's so overwhelming. Now the old paradigm was, I mean, this is the way we used to do things. And that was that, you know, we would tell people this is what we are, this is who we are, this is how you get what you need, this is where you get it, and oh, by the way, we're all really nice people, you know, and like buy from us or use the library. And this was always, the message was internally being pushed out to the consumer. Now you're seeing more and more where people are turning outward and asking the consumer, you know, tell us what you need, and then we engage the messaging that way. The new paradigm is represented by this quote. And this guy here was, he is the chief creative officer worldwide for J. Walter Thompson, who's the 4th largest ad agency on the planet. And this made a lot of sense to me, that people don't have time for this. We're getting hit with so much stuff that we need to stop interrupting what people are interested in and be what people are interested in. And that gets back, for libraries, gets into community engagement and getting people involved so that we're not sending out more messages to them about come to our programs, come to this, come to that, do this, because that gets lost in all the shuffle. So we're in a people business and we just have to communicate with people. And how do you do that today? I mean, how do you be what people are interested in while turning them into raving fans for the library who will support it and market it and advocate for it? Because they will. And that's where we're at today. I sent out in the pre-workshop material, the 650 competency survey that we did with 650 library journal movers and shakers. There were 50 a year for the last whatever number of years. And you went through this, and I put this particular slide in here because this was the one that talked about competencies that are critical to you throughout your career. We looked at, if you remember, we looked at competencies that are important at a staff position, supervisor and manager position, and a director's position. So we looked at those 3 areas, and we saw these 6 competencies show up in every area from these movers and shakers. And you can see the first one is build relationships with people. That's the most important thing you can do today at every level of your career. And the numbers, as you remember, the numbers behind each one of these, the 2, and the 2, it was rated number 2 by staff people, it was rated number 2 by supervisor managers, and it was rated 2 by directors. And a director in Salt Lake County told me, or city, one of the sessions said, it should be number 1. You know, he said, if I could have made it number 1, it would have been number 1. And then innovation, collaboration and teamwork, communication, championing change, or as my new favorite friend said, evolving, and being comfortable with that, and community engagement. You know, the position of the library in the mind of the community, if you look at those 6, 1, 2, 3, 4 of them are about people. building relationships, collaboration and teamwork, communication and community engagement. It's all about being with people. And that's how you position the library in the mind of the community. Once again, it lines up with what other people say. The most important personal core competency by far, from a leadership standpoint, is a rich set of relationships. Because people buy from friends of theirs. That's a very important point. I love this. This is very low tech, low cost. Sue Considine, who I mentioned before, she's the one who said she changed her life when it dawned on her she doesn't have to come up with all the great ideas. Well, there's another idea that she came up with. She took this 8.5 by 11 piece of paper and made a Word document out of it. And you can read it, inviting community participation in the library. Inviting community in to build services, which is something that people are trying to work on. This is the little makerspace in the library over here. But you can see it. It says, what do you love to do? What are you passionate about? Would you be interested in sharing what you know, teaching it to your neighbors, to the community? Can I have your contact info? Would you be interested in talking in person? And they hand these out to the people in the community. They have stacks of them in the library. When she's out, she'll give them to people. And people fill these out and get them back to her. What they do at that point, first of all, they manage this process, and if they get one and they think it's a really cool idea, they'll invite the person in, sit down and talk to them and interview them. If they think this person is capable of getting up in front of a group of people, right? Or if not, they're not going to embarrass these people. So they facilitate and they manage this process, but they don't deliver it, which is a pretty neat concept. This is her library, and this is community's library. And I show this picture just so that this is not some multi-billion-dollar library with tons of money. This is that building that they're in. Are you familiar with Stickley Furniture? It's furniture been around for hundreds of years. The Stickley's family started in this town. That's their old manufacturing place where they used to build a lot of the furniture. And it was vacant. They moved to a ultra-modern place now. So they didn't know what to do with this building, so they said, well, we'll put the library in there. So they built this, front end on, this porch on. And I mean, this library, no one went to this library 5 years ago. I mean, it just was there and full of books and nobody went. Sue showed up and changed the entire thing. Now you can't find a parking space to get into that place. You can't get in that place. I mean, they built a cafe in there. There was a beautiful old fireplace in there from the old building, and they redid it and have a cafe now. I mean, it's just gorgeous in there. This piece over here is what is now their makerspace. That was empty, and they were the first one in the United States to have a makerspace, and blew this out and that's their makerspace. So. But they're pretty neat. I mean, they're pretty neat. This Civil War lecture came out of that piece of paper that she came up with. Guy filled it out and said, hey, I'm retired. I mean, I studied the Civil War. I have all the artifacts and everything. I mean, and she interviewed him, and she said the man was absolutely incredible. Now they're scheduled every week because people are now coming from all over the place. I mean, he's run through the community already. Now people are coming in, and this spawned this whole series of things that are community-led programs by community members who are actually running the program. This is one of her slides talking about the one-on-one appointments they have, monthly clubs, weekly series. All this came out of that program, which frees the librarians up to do other things. Although they are very involved in these. And then this is our other slide to show what the difference between 2012 and 2014 and 15. I mean, from 19 to 436 is a big jump. And her budget, they were able to take money, reallocate money from her budget for the librarians who were doing this and other things, money they were spending things on, and reallocate the money. because they're saving money now. This is the school library that we were talking about, and there's the URL that you have. But this was all bookcases in here. And they took all that and put them up against the walls around in the back, opened this all up for the kids to work together and collaborate and hang out. And everything's mobile where they can push everything around again and make it wherever, however they need it. The director, if you read that article, said, if you ask me can I keep my technology or can I keep my furniture? He said, I'd tell you I want to keep my furniture. Because a lot of kids bring their own stuff. Great story, the things that are going on there. And this was another one. Position the library in the mind of the community. Amy Dotson, director at Bayfield, said, lots of libraries are there for the community, but this community actually built that library in Colorado. And it's Bayfield's in the southwest corner of the state. And it's very much like here. I mean, people are outside. They love being outside. They like doing all these things. So they built the library, and it includes 5 outdoor activity areas in this library. This was best small library in America. Again, not a big, huge library. One of the outdoor activity areas is this 17,000 square foot, 24-bed community garden, which we see all around now. I mean, we see a lot of that now, where you can check out a garden and grow organic vegetables and do all that. This is the one that brings in 5-star chefs with grills, and they teach people how to cook the vegetables, and they have classes on how to can it and all those things. It's about living healthy and learning about healthy living and eating. And they also have the petting zoo, in the teen center. But here's another outdoor activity area, the balance and movement area. And the black in the pit here are recycled tires in case they fall down. Really cool, and outdoor movies. There's a fire pit, and people sitting there in the snow watching some movie, drinking hot cocoa, and hanging out. The other idea is to make sure, if you position yourself in the mind of the community, to make sure you have a seat at the table. When there's any conversations going on in your community or at your institutions, your schools, make sure the library is represented and sitting at that table. And as a friend of mine says, just don't have a seat at the table, call the meeting. And if you've had teachers and they're not checking books out, and you're trying to call a meeting, sit down and say, what are you doing? What would you like it to be, and what can we do? And just have a conversation about it. The idea is to build movements and not campaigns. Librarians are always really good at campaigns and making flyers and having campaigns. But campaigns are us talking about ourselves. And movements are other people talking about us. And movements create loyalty. That's the difference. So you want to find out who your true believers are and then listen to them and engage them, because it's worth it to get them out there working with you. You're familiar, I'm sure you've heard of, a couple of years old now, the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. Anyone do it? Anyone know anyone that did it? Yeah. We used to ask people, do you use AOL? No. Do you know anybody who uses it? Yeah. But this whole movement here, ALS had nothing to do with it. And the funny thing about it was, in July, August of 2013, ALS on their own raised $2.5 million for that organization, which was a lot of money. All right? But a year later, some golfer from Australia and a NASCAR driver challenged each other through social media. That's how it got started. And the bet was, if you didn't do this, then you had to donate money to a charity of your choice. And it wasn't ALS. And then they got Matt Lauer and whatever it is on the Today Show, and they got them involved. Someone challenged Matt and that crew, and then Martha Stewart got involved, and then somehow in that period, they said you have to donate to ALS, and that's when it took off. And that's so that year, that same time period, the following year, because of that, they raised $115 million for that organization. And it was a movement. You'll never be able to recreate that movement again. But there's things that you can do to create a movement. We had some fun with this. This is, I was in Miami. That is the Miami, that's West Day Regional Library. I did a all-staff day training session. There's a library back there. Back in here. And when I pulled up that day, it was election day, and which it didn't dawn on me, and the library was a polling spot. And by the time we came out for lunch break, and this sidewalk from here, where this is the parking lot, all the way down here, all the way down around this building, and the director said that they'll be in line for 3 hours to cast their vote. That's how many people were there. When I go in upstate New York, I'm like number 6 in the morning, and that's it. I wouldn't even have to turn my car off. I could just pull up out front, run in and vote and leave. So anyhow, you see all those signs there, and that reminded me of this story of how they created this movement in Louisville, Kentucky, years ago. Martha, I can't remember her last name, she was just retired. She was a staff member, talking about you don't need a title to be a leader. They were sitting in a meeting talking about what can we do to position the library in the mind of the community, and she said, I'll tell you what, last year during election season, every yard I went by, every intersection I went through, all I saw were these yard signs stuck in the ground: vote for Hillary, vote for Obama, vote for whoever was running. Why don't we give every child who goes through a summer reading program a yard sign to stick in the front yard? So they did it, and it says very low cost initiative because local business donated these signs in kind, so it didn't cost them anything for the signs. And all they were, you can see this, they were plastic with 2 metal feet you stick in the dirt. They handed out 30,254 yard signs during this period. And wherever you went in Louisville, the library was in your face. I mean, it was everywhere. This generated so much positive buzz within the library itself, and the librarians and staff got excited and passionate about it. One of the web developers, webmaster, who was a digital photographer, said, hey, this is incredible. Why don't we ask the parents to take a digital picture of their child or their children out in the front yard with these signs, email them to me, and I'll put a rotating slideshow on our homepage. So they did it. Now, I've told that story to thousands of libraries, and a lot of times people say, you can't put kids' pictures on the website. Are you crazy? Well, they checked all that out ahead of time. They got permission from the parents when they emailed them the picture. Plus, they're all very tight shots, and you know, no addresses and all that stuff up there. So everything was cool. But what do you think the parents did when their pictures, Susie's picture, goes up on the website of the library?
They totally reshared them.
What's that?
They reshared them.
Yes, they called grandma, grandpa, aunts, uncles, friends. Go find Susie's picture on the library's website. Thousands of people, they'd never been to this website in their life. So now all of a sudden they're sitting in front of Louisville's website waiting for Susie's picture to flip up through the rotation, and they're looking down the right side and the left side of the website. And it says, you know, how to fill out resumes, classes, summer reading programs, adult programs, computer programs, things they never even knew that library did. And someone mentioned it earlier, I think it was Jonas, right, with they can track when you go from your homepage into the website. So within a very short period of time, they saw if someone hit that homepage, where they went. Like if 10% of the people went to how to write a resume. I don't know what it was. But it was very easy from a marketing standpoint at that point to get a good handle on what people who probably never used their library were interested in, which was kind of neat. So here's one of these pictures that pops up. And I saw pictures, there was a one little boy, he had dressed in full football uniform, helmet, shoulder pads, holding a book of some sports hero that he had read in summer reading. There was just thousands of them. What do you think this guy's going to be when he grows up? Right, sitting there with his bleach uniform on, and the backpack was part of what they gave them. That's what everything was in. There were 4 tickets to the double-A baseball game in there for the family, and bookmarks, and people donated all kind of stuff that went in there. The director told me a story about this guy. We called him Johnny because I didn't know his name, but he said, if you think Johnny was excited about going through summer reading, getting a backpack, getting the tickets to the game, getting his picture on the website, he was even more excited when he went out to the mailbox on a Saturday morning to get the mail for his mother. Goes out to the mailbox, comes running back with a stack of envelopes, and he said, Mom, there's an envelope with my name on it. Somebody's mailed me some. Now, he had never received the mail in his life, or anything in the mail in the U.S. Postal Service in his life. And she said, well, open it up, see what it is. So he opens it. Here, someone in the community, in the neighborhood, went to the local card shop and bought him a congratulations card. And went around the entire neighborhood, door to door, and had everyone sign the card. Said, write Johnny and sign your name and write him a note. So everyone wrote, congratulations, keep up the good work, we're proud of you, let us know what you're reading next, and all these crazy notes. And I said when I heard it, you go back 15 years from now and you find that kid, could have changed his life.
Yeah.
It really could have. That's why what you do is so important. And if we can position the library in the mind of the community like that, it's worth gold. It really is. I told that story to the director at Calcasieu Parish in Louisiana, and he started they do it every year now. And what they do there, these are on the foam core. He took it up a notch instead of the plastic. This is that foam core stuff. And every year they change the font and the color. And people are collecting them now.
Yeah.
And every year, he was so proud of this, he sends me, I get a FedEx envelope every year, a box, with one of these signs in it. So I have 5 of them in my office right now. But he said people collect them like coffee mugs now, and they hang them up in their garage. It's kind of fun. These were the pictures off of his website. We saw this we did a session at a college campus down in Florida, and we walked out on a break, and there's one of these yard signs on campus for the vets. And I see these, I said, in college campuses for a library, put these yard signs up all over that campus. And I put them in the grassy areas, not where the sidewalks are, but where the paths are. As Apple said, that's where the students really walk. But you can promote things, what things are going on in the library, put them all over the place. They work. Low cost, low tech. The idea behind all this is the old way of marketing was to make average products and services for average people. This was the old GM model. Because this is, they said, this is where 30-some% of the market was. So this is what we want to build things for. The new way is to find and market to your brand enthusiasts and supporters and turn them into brand advocates for your library. These are the people who know you, who love you, who support you. If we can have conversations with them and engage this community and ask for their help, I need your help. Go tell 10 of your friends and family. These people will listen to them before they'll ever listen to you. And that's the idea. The reason we do that is these folks know your library, they use it, they're a credible source for information, and you have thousands of them. And like the one guy said on one of the, you cannot do it alone. If you get more people working with you and for you, you'll have much better results. Because, you see the number, 77% of consumers today are more likely to support a brand, a library, or whatever business when they hear about it from their friends and family. Because there's 32 different kinds of Colgate. And if a friend of mine says, get the one in the blue box, that's probably the one I'll go get. Okay, we're going to get you up on the walls here for 15, 20 minutes and then get you out of here. We do a lot of surveys as we run around the country. And this was one we did in the last 7 states. I think we were at a total of, what was it, 700 and something. Oh, it's not there, that's why. Yeah, it doesn't show up there. 790 people responded to the survey in these rooms. And we asked them, what was the biggest challenge facing your library today? Out of those 9 states, in every case, these 3 things were either number 1, 2, or 3. 9 states, 790 librarians said these were the challenges. So what we've been doing for the last couple of months was asking people in these rooms now to get up at these flip charts in little groups and have conversations about pick one of these areas, but we're not going to do that. We're going to do something similar because I wanted to do this. I changed this morning at 5 in the morning because I think it's like 9 in the morning. I don't know where my brain is. When we were in Anchorage and Fairbanks, we asked the people in those rooms what 3 factors have the greatest impact on your library success in the area of community engagement. And out of those 2 groups of people, these are the top 5 that they came up with. So what I thought it'd be kind of fun was to ask you to read these, pick one of them. And how many people do we have here? 20? 24.
That's 2 people.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 pieces of paper hanging around the room. So if like 5 people go to each one, or 6, I would ask you as a group, I'll leave this slide up, pick one of these topics. Building relationships throughout the community, communicating the value, pick one, and then draw a circle, you've all done these, draw a circle in the middle of the page, put the one you focused on in the middle, and then just start having a conversation and someone grab a Sharpie and just start putting down ways that you think we can make that happen. Does it make sense? And remember, be like George Carlin. Who's your day? Not deja vu. You get into this is ideation. Encourage wild ideas, build on ideas of others, stay focused on that topic. One person talks at a time. Draw your ideas, and we'll do it for maybe 15 minutes or so, and see what you come up with.
Is that a purposeful type of
What's that?
Your last ball is go for one.
Yeah, it was 5 in the morning. No, it was.
You're teaching us to observe.
That's right. Listen, I've learned after 10 years of librarians that you can't not misspell anything.
I like your font and your pencil icon.
Okay, so there they are. If you just want to head towards one of those pieces of paper, someone grab a Sharpie and be the scribe.
I think it is a time management issue. I think they're so busy
Well, I think
that they don't have time to go to those things.
they don't have, you don't have a flexible schedule where you make.
So, I have said that kids can come down if I have class.
They do that with the state capitals, actually. They have a club they could
I think
get
that one
with the
also
state capitol.
allows you to get to know your neighbors, who might be one of your greatest partners,
Backyard circle.
physical neighbors and also emotional neighbors. Yeah.
You can stand where you're at if you like to stretch your legs a little bit, but each group's going to have someone, or sit down and relax. Who wants to go first? Who doesn't want to?
I'll start.
We go. Okay.
She's gotta go soon.
Building relationships throughout the community. So connect with and talk to anybody you consider a competition for the community events that you're doing. And then this great word, cooperation. So that's an idea of sending people, I'll send them to you, you send them to me, like you have a great service and I have a great service, so we'll just, goodwill branding, sharing those brands with others. So not just, I have all this stuff, come over here. You can say, you have this and I have this. And then you have people embedded, be an embedded advocate on your staff. So if you have a staff of people, he said that at the, tell them that.
Talk to people on your staff and find out what they're involved in the community and have them be the advocates for the library, or talk to that group and say, what do you need out of the library, and bring that back.
Yeah. Okay, and then we have a monthly newsletter. Those are things that already happened. Adding food and drinks, it's still kind of a no-no in many libraries, but just go ahead and do it. If something gets wet, just have towels. I have a stack of towels in the back room. You use folks who know everyone to advocate for you. Go. This is a hard one for me. Go to the council or the Chamber of Commerce and talk. But that's a hard one. Make the library your venue for celebrations and presentations, and that's it.
Thank you.
Nothing too wild or wild.
So we're going down the line.
We did finding leaders in the community and working with them. So it was just like where to find these people who would be like good partners and advocates. So like through the city council, like local business owners, Chamber of Commerce, like parents, club offices that in the community, like hobbies that you kind of just like, if there's not a website, you kind of find out through word of mouth, and other nonprofits. And GuideStar, I don't know what this is.
Oh, just one way that some people can find nonprofits is through a service called GuideStar. It's a free directory that pulls from IRS data. And one of the other things is once you find these groups, particularly the social, the artistic, the cultural organizations, take time to send people to their events and listen to what's going on.
Good. Okay, thank you. How about over here?
Okay, so we did getting librarians outside of the library, and we talked about how just getting outside to a partner institution, another library, for example, and kind of cross-doing programs with other institutions that may have overlapping goals and missions to your own, so kind of partnering up. We talked about just going out the front door like we did today and observing and asking questions, maybe surveying our people heading in. We talked about how we have physical neighbors, but we also have emotional neighbors, kind of similar, again, people doing similar types of programming, and how, like at this library, for example, we're right next door to the swimming pool. So is there something that we can do right next door to kind of let people know that, you know, there are things going on right here? And giving a friendly face to the library by visiting places, giving us a personal face. Generally just touring other libraries, whether you're in town or out of town, gathering the great ideas that you see from other places. We also talked about just getting out there to find and identify our new segments of audiences, figure out where are they physically, where are they virtually, and then getting outside of the library. We considered doing webinars, was kind of pushing out of the library and bringing instruction and services out virtually.
Great.
So.
Thank you. Okay.
We got pretty school library centric on ours, and what came out of this is the number 2, communicating the value of the library. Communicating the value the library brings to the community. And after kind of going through the exercise, Julie pointed out that we're really, in the school it's kind of a different situation. You're really talking about communicating the value of the librarian, because a lot of schools have the library, and if they don't know what a certified and trained librarian can do, this part goes away. They still value the library as a place that kids can check in and out books, but they're missing 90% of the big picture of what that could be doing for them. So defining the community has a lot of different parts: kids, teachers, the school board, parents, and administration. And communicating the value goes through different routes depending on that part of the population. Some ideas were with the kids, one aspect of that, and kind of the bigger picture is that for some of the kids going to the school library, that's the only library they see, and so there might not be that culture of what a library can do. So had some ideas, maybe going on a field trip. Teachers is a big part of it. If they're not aware of what the school librarian can do, just making awareness, getting out, talking to them, doing surveys, and some outreach within the school. And then we didn't get too much into the administrators and the board, but that's probably pretty similar, and then parents.
Thank you.
So we ended up with almost the same center thing because we wrote it down off the previous slide. But we have way different stuff around the outside. We have a lot of items, but they kind of generally fell into two categories. One is, the center is communicating about the value of the library in the community. And one was to do that by personalizing your communication to specific groups or even specific individuals. And the other was involving other groups and connecting with other groups. So for the personalization, it was, make people feel special, like they get to be a part of your library. Not everybody does, because there's people who aren't in your community that maybe don't get to use it, at least in the same way. Use word of mouth, use art and images. Learn from public radio and public TV. They have the posters that go out each year. People collect them in the mugs. People pay money for them.
Yeah.
And if we do something like that, then that builds up people who are involved, but also could maybe be some income, I don't know. And then using champions or power users. If you have people who use the library a lot, but can then go back to their specific groups and they can market the library for you or connect with those groups, people that you already know, so that it makes it a little bit easier too, because you don't have to go so much and try and connect with people that you don't already know. Learn from other organizations, share events, a lot of the same things that a lot of people have already talked about. Use all available media, use word of mouth. We had a couple things that related to using word of mouth, and use food.
Food, always important. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, thank you for that. Get back to your libraries. I mean, you want to tackle an issue like that, just get a flip chart piece of paper and go somewhere and get a couple people sitting around and just start coming up with ideas to see what you come up with. And notice new things and think about things differently. Okay, I would ask you now to wrap this up. Go to the bottom right corner of this action plan and write down a key thought you took away from that experience, that session. Positioning the library in the mind of the community. Who wants to share a key thought with the group?
I think it really came up for me was sort of leveraging the easy things, the people that you already know, the places that you've already are somewhat familiar with, and leveraging those things to move out further. You don't have to make it super hard for yourself.
No. Right, I agree. Jonas?
I keep coming back to just the conversations. Like, I love this idea of crowdsourcing, like programming or like talking directly to the community, finding out what they're passionate about and willing to come and do programs. about, but like having that face-to-face is that like we always want to survey everybody because it's easy and it's, we don't have to leave our desks, but it doesn't get us out of the library. And then like a lot of people were probably at ACLA and Fairbanks, but I can't remember the guy from, it's the library advocacy. Every library, yeah. So he's talking about how like, I don't know, this huge percentage of library supporters, the reason that they're a library supporter is because they have like a fond memory of a librarian, like at an early age. So really like, we're kind of the most important people. You don't really need the building.
No.
So like bringing library programming somewhere else, and yeah, you can pull that off as long as you have somebody that people identify sort of as, you know, a library person.
Yeah. Yeah, like John's a good friend of mine, and that's why Julie, whoever said that over there in the circle, that really stuck to me. Yeah, position the librarian in the mind of the community, not the library. Because it is the librarian, or the volunteers and the staff and, you know, non-MLS people. The people that make that building go are the most important part. Any others? Yes?
So the building relationships thing that we keep coming back to, and just like what you said with librarians being key people, or library staff, anyone in the building, I think like, especially with our students, I've tried more when I have any kind of reference interaction to ask the students their names, and maybe just, if they don't seem to be in a big hurry, a little bit about themselves, and then try to remember and talk to them if I see them in other places, you know, in the cafeteria or whatever. Oh, how are things going? And then, you know, you are helping make the library a home away from home kind of place where
Yes.
they know somebody, someone's gonna, you know, a familiar face. And I thought about going around and with just a simple, like, one question survey to students, like, what would make the library better? Or one thing that would, you know, just one simple thing, and having conversations. But then I got too shy. I made it, but then I got like too shy to actually do it. So that's also part of it, is a lot of librarians are introverts.
Yeah.
And it's hard to put yourself out there, but I think it is that key thing that we have to do, and even if it's hard. So that would be my reflection on this.
Yeah, and I agree with
not,
you. It's,
you know,
but
intuitive to all this.
and what we've seen is, with the introverted population, is once, like with the conversations we had in Liverpool, they wanted to kill me in the beginning. What do you mean you want me to go out and do that? Why don't you go away and shut your mouth? But once they got out, and because we kept saying, you're a community member, right? That's the funny thing about it. The librarian is a community member, and these are your neighbors and people you know. And once they got that one easy piece in the beginning of, can we sit down, hey, do you have a couple minutes? I'd like to ask you a couple questions. I need your help. I go back to I need your help. That's what I did. I need your help. Can I ask you 4 questions? Because we're trying to improve the library.
That's a good.
I don't want any money.
Yeah.
And I'm not selling.
I'm not selling anything.
You know, what kind of a community do you want to live in? I mean, and then help them. Just go back, and within minutes, it'll turn into that conversation before you even know it. And I want you to do it a couple times. You're off.
And I like starting out with focusing on the community rather than saying how can, because if we ask how can we make our services better, a lot of times people will just say, oh, they're pretty good, because they don't know what
They
they
don't.
would be. And so by first focusing on their lives in the community, I think we need to get more information.
There was an article that was just written a week or so ago from someone that said, I think that, who wrote that? Oh, man. It was one of the guys hooked up with John, at every library, said to ask people, what do you think, what services do you think we should have at the library? Is kind of like, you know, asking somebody that never built a car before, can you build a car for me? And
Yeah.
they don't know. And sometimes they don't know what they don't know, what they don't want.
What do you want available for your kids after school? What do you want?
Yeah, right. Yeah, we found out in Liverpool there was a big need for after school. There was a gap between when school let out and when these kids went home. Some of them didn't want to go home. Either there was no one there or they didn't want to go there, so they kind of hung out. So we replicated programs in the Liverpool library up at the school again after school. The school loves it. The superintendent's going up, jumping up and down, because now they have all these kids in one area, and they're doing maker space kind of stuff. So they're learning for a couple hours without even knowing they're learning, right? Really good. So that's what you want to do. Any others? Has anyone ever seen the video Leadership Lessons for Starting a Movement?
Yeah.
My dancing guy I used to.
I love a dancing guy.
No?
Not the last dancing guy,
No.
I'll show you. It's 3 minutes, and then I would ask you before you leave, that yellow evaluation form, everybody have it? If you can fill that out, I would greatly appreciate it. Just leave it on the table. This is a 3-minute video. Watch this video. This is one of my favorite videos. When I was a young man, I used to play in a band back in the 60s and 70s during the Woodstock invasion, and we used to play a lot of festivals outside. And when I saw this video clip, it dawned on me, why did they always have these festivals on hillsides? As you'll see here, because after going out there for a day or two and doing what people did back then, it was very hard to navigate those hillsides. And watch this. It's a funny video, but listen to what he says about leadership. His words are right on the money.
If you've learned a lot about leadership and making a movement, then let's watch a movement happen start to finish in under 3 minutes and dissect some lessons. First, of course, a leader needs the guts to stand alone and look ridiculous. But what he's doing is so simple, it's almost instructional. This is key. You must be easy to follow. Now here comes the first follower with a crucial role. He publicly shows everyone else how to follow. Notice how the leader embraces him as an equal. So it's not about the leader anymore, it's about them, plural. Notice how he's calling to his friends to join in. So it takes guts to be a first follower. You stand out and you brave ridicule yourself. Being a first follower is an underappreciated form of leadership. The first follower transforms a lone nut into a leader. If the leader is the flint, the first follower is the spark that really makes the fire. Now here's the second follower. This is a turning point. It's proof the first has done well. Now it's not a lone nut and it's not 2 nuts. 3 is a crowd and a crowd is news. A movement must be public. Make sure outsiders see more than just the leader. Everyone needs to see the followers because new followers emulate followers, not the leader. Now here come 2 more people, then 3 more immediately. Now we've got momentum. This is the tipping point, and now we have a movement. As more people jump in, it's no longer risky. If they were on the fence before, there's no reason not to join in now. They won't stand out, they won't be ridiculed, and they will be part of the in crowd if they hurry. And over the next minute you'll see the rest who prefer to stay part of the crowd, because eventually they'd be ridiculed for not joining. And ladies and gentlemen, that is how a movement is made. So let's recap what we've learned. If you are a version of the shirtless dancing guy, all alone, remember the importance of nurturing your first few followers as equals, making everything clearly about the movement, not you. Be public, be easy to follow. But the biggest lesson here, did you catch it? Leadership is overglorified. Yes, it started with the shirtless guy, and he'll get all the credit, but you saw what really happened. It was the first follower that transformed a lone nut into a leader. There's no movement without the first follower. See, we're told that we all need to be leaders, but that would be really ineffective. The best way to make a movement, if you really care, is to courageously follow and show others how to follow. When you find a lone nut doing something great, have the guts to be the first person to stand up and join in.
If you haven't seen the dancing guy, you totally have to go on YouTube and find the dancing guy.
Yeah,
It's
go to
awesome.
YouTube. There's a number of different videos.
Yeah.
This was the best one I could find. This one here. I mean, it's the same thing, but it's from different shots. And there it is. Leadership lessons for starting movement from dancing guy. I love at the end when the girls, you can hear the girl in the background. How did he do that? How did he do that? It's great. Okay, so remember that quote from Peter Block: choose to act on what matters, live a passionate existence. What you do is incredible. Have fun doing it, even when it gets tough. take a stance whereby you declare that you are accountable for the community around you and are willing to pursue what you define as important. And if you define important as free access to information for every person and creating this environment where people can come and improve their own lives, then take a stand and make it happen. Thanks. Any questions or comments?
Just a note that we will also be sending out an online survey to all of the participants of these workshops around the state.
Okay.
And you should get that sometime next week.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Have a great evening.